Maria Montero, Republican for Congress in District 7. Why are you running for this office?
I'm running for Pennsylvania 7 because I care so much and love our country. Never in my lifetime have I seen our country change more than in the last 4 years. And I want better for my neighbors. I want better for me and my family. I want to make sure that our streets are safe. I'm very concerned about our border. And I know that with a strong border, we can make sure that we have safe streets, reduce the flow of fentanyl. And I want to make sure that things like groceries and our cost of gas is more affordable. And how you do that is with the free market. You know, right here in Pennsylvania, we have natural gas, and I want to be able to help develop those resources for jobs. And I want to make sure that we have that America that I grew up for. And that's why I'm running for Congress.
Maria, we have a statewide audience here on PCN. So tell our viewers, which part of Pennsylvania makes up District 7?
Yeah, so District 7 is new. At one point, 7 covered southeastern Pennsylvania, but now the 7th Congressional District includes Lehigh, Northampton, Carbon, and a portion of Monroe County. And so it's geographically diverse. It used to be coal mining and steel country and all of that, but now we have strong hospital systems. It has a wonderful tourism community. And in fact, agriculture is very important in our community.
How much personal history do you have with District 7?
Oh my gosh. So on my mom's side, my great-grandfather was a coal miner at the number 9 coal mine in Lansford, which is in Carbon County. And so, you know, it doesn't matter what country my family came from, whether it was Ireland, Italy, or from Peru. They came to Pennsylvania for a better way of life, for that American dream. And so I was born and raised in Carbon County. And when my parents separated, my dad lived in Allentown. So I had very unique treasure of being able to have a city upbringing and then also have this wonderful mountain type backyard that was Carbon County in the Poconos.
Before we get into the issues in District 7, I understand you're a lawyer. What kind of law do you practice?
So I have a specialty degree in law and government. I'm very blessed that when I first went to Widener School of Law, which is now called Commonwealth Campus in Harrisburg, Professor Gettyd started a program in law and government because of our proximity to the Capitol, where we could really deep dive. And I've worked with several different agencies. And so I understand the inner workings of, you know, not only how the sausage is made, but, you know, where they had those burdensome regulations, which make our small businesses' life a living heck. Right now, I am working with HGSK Law Firm, which is on Hamilton Street in Allentown, and it's a personal injury law firm, and I help out folks who are injured.
And why did you take up the law in the first place?
Gosh, that started when I was in 2nd grade. I was so impressed with Ronald Reagan and our Supreme Court. When I was little, I wanted to be a judge, and so I knew that if I was going to be a judge, that I needed to go to law school. But I would be the first person on my dad's side of the family to go to college, let alone go to law school. So I guess I always had those idealistic and optimistic thoughts. And it's probably the reason why I'm running for Congress, because this is such a sad part in our history, but it's also a great turning point. This is our 1776 moment. There has not been an election that's more important for the people of the United States and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania than right now.
It sounds like your thoughts in 2nd grade were pretty advanced as far as the law and politics were concerned. So I'm figuring that something supercharged your interest in this at home. Is that the case?
Yeah, my grandfather was a 40-year carpenter member. So he had his carpenter pin, and when he passed, I inherited that. So, you know, being responsive to the people and, you know, being the people of the working class is the Republican Party right now. So, but my grandfather used to yell at Ronald Reagan on the TV. I used to have like rabbit ear television.
Right.
And I'd just be laying on the carpet, you know, listening to my grandfather yell at Ronald Reagan. And there was one point where I looked at my grandfather and I was like, Grandpa, what this guy's saying makes sense. Why don't you like him? And So whether I was contrary or whether it was because not only was he inspirational to me, Ronald Reagan, but he struck a chord just about American optimism and hope and how important. And even to this day, the fight against communism, it's cyclical.
Sounds like your grandfather treated you like a pretty mature person as a youngster.
He did. We always had very frank conversations, but I was very blessed. My grandfather was my best friend, and he lived till he was 99 and 50 weeks. So my grandfather almost made it to 100, but he was my best friend. And I was so blessed to have that type of love and nurturement. Even though we weren't wealthy, we had plenty of love, and my parents made sure I had a great education, for which I'm so thankful.
How can your legal experience help you be an effective congresswoman?
Oh, gosh. So when I talk about knowing how the sausage is made, I know that Congress has relegated and delegated their responsibilities to government to runaway agencies. I was doing research through different sources on trying to figure out how many government agencies are recognized by the federal government. One website said there was, 46. Another said there was like 240. And I was like, okay, where is it? Even the federal government doesn't know. So let's just, arguably say there's hundreds of government agencies, and each one of those agencies are making regulations which make it difficult to do business. And so as an attorney, I take that role of understanding the Constitution very seriously. If the good people of the 7th Congressional District decide that I'm the best person to represent them in this primary, I promise and guarantee to you that the two principles that will always guide me is, number one, is this constitutional? And number two, is it in America's best interest?
Let's talk some more about your experience, Maria. And I understand you're a former executive director at the PA Commission for Women. What kind of work did you do there?
So I had an amazing commission of 30 women who were business leaders, everywhere from healthcare to small business owners. And the commission's work was really reflective of a 67 type county tour of asking women what were their number one priorities. And when I represented Governor Corbett and all of the women who live in the Commonwealth, the number one issue was economic independence. And so we focused a lot of our efforts on how to support women-owned businesses. And the second most important issue for the women in the Commonwealth is having a voice in government. And so we focused a lot of our efforts on making sure that women can have a voice, not only at the elected level, but also with all of the different agencies we have. There's regulatory commissions that they could be part of that process and using their expertise to be part of government on an end of having individuals that are pro-business and that are pro-America.
You're also a former executive director at the PA Latino Commission. Tell us about their mission and what you feel you accomplished there.
Yes. So I learned so much about the difference in priorities of the 27 different countries that are Spanish speaking. And the number one is always that we are so blessed to be American. And we're so happy that we have this opportunity to thrive here because our families came from so many different places, escaping communism, socialism, despotism, tyrannical governments, poverty. And so the one thing and the most important thing that for our Latino Commission was recognizing how important education is. And my grandmother, who was Irish, always said, Maria, when you educate a mom, you educate a family. And in our Latino community, there were major struggles going on with graduation rates. And so our major focus was making sure that we can help improve graduation rates to students and making sure they have access to that next level, whether it was college or something that I have embraced. And I'm so happy to promote is the importance of technical schools. We're seeing right now with this next generation of students and graduates from high schools, they are filling that much needed void we have for our electricians and plumbers and natural gas drillers. And I'm so thankful that they're stepping up to that plate because we need them desperately.
I understand you've been active in Republican politics in Easton City. What have you done there?
Yeah, so I've been active in Republican politics since I was in second grade, remember?
Right.
And so, and I'd say I started to become very active when I was at St. Joseph's University. I was in our college Republicans, and I don't know if anybody in our audience has seen the golden the golden EIB mic in person, but my team and I went up to Rush Limbaugh's television show. That was exciting. And then I was the founder of the Widener Law School Republicans. And I was very blessed to have one of our first speakers as Will Gabig. He was one of the only representatives that voted against the midnight pay raise. And while I was in law school, I was part of the Lehigh Valley Young Republicans. So I worked on hundreds of campaigns as a volunteer, and I've been anywhere from a YR chair to a committee person, and I've even founded an organization with Lou Ramos, who was very active in our community in the Lehigh Valley. I founded with him and Jerry Laracuente, who used to work with Pat Toomey's office, the Lehigh Valley Latino Republican Club. So right now, I serve on the Easton City Committee. I'm a committee woman as well. And, you know, at the most basic level, I just want to make sure that we give our Republicans that are in the 7th Congressional District a candidate that can beat Susan Wild, and that's me.
Maria, let's start exploring the issues in Congress. I was looking at your website, preparing for this interview, and I watched a video you made. And in that video, you said the Biden-Harris agenda is ruining the country. Give me an example.
Let's start with the border. Millions of individuals that are flowing into our country that don't have America's best interest in mind. The individuals that are coming over are just not individuals who are Spanish speakers. This open border policy that we have has brought in terrorists. They've created sects that are out to destroy America. It also, I will tell you, is a slap in the face of every single immigrant that has followed the rule of law. The United States is a country of a rule of law. And I'm pro-immigration. I want people to come here. There's so many amazing things about America that make us like the place where I want to attract individuals that want to work hard and be active and contributing members of our society. But it's not a good start by coming here illegally. And so we're asking people to follow the rule of law, but at the very least, let's invest in making sure we have a border wall. Let's invest to make sure that we have the technology that we can help seal those breaches, and let's support ICE and our border agents. These folks are on the front line for us. They're putting our life, protecting our lives and putting their lives in danger. And so, you know, for me, that's one of the things that's really ruining our country is an open border.
Here's another item, Maria, I saw on your website, and you said that the American dream is out of reach. And why do you suppose that is?
Oh, gosh. It's because it's something that I lived when I was in second grade. And I don't know if you know this, I grew up with very humble upbringings, but because everybody else around me was humble, I didn't know that we didn't have a lot of money. Like everyone else was the same as me. And I always knew that with hard work and with a lot of elbow grease that I would be able to be successful. I was 26 when I bought my first house. I was able to put 20% down. But I think about today and what's available for my son. He's 29 years old. And him buying a house is out of reach right now. And it really made me ponder to myself, what type of America am I leaving for my son? And that's what I mean by out of reach.
Let's talk about another issue that Americans are certainly concerned with, and that would be inflation. What can be done to curb the current rate of inflation?
So I think some of the major issues that are going on right now is that if the federal government would, number one, lower the tax burden on everyday Americans, they'd be able to keep more of their own money and be able to purchase items that are needed, like their groceries and their fuel and their living arrangements, whether it's rental or if there's mortgage payments. You know, but what it happens is that our federal government has been playing around with interest rates. They've infused so much government money, which then to a certain extent, you have people like me competing with government money. And what happens is when we have an increase of supply of certain things, that would naturally bring prices down. But because of everything that's happened, which started in COVID, because of the increase of prices in fuel, because of the increase in prices of labor, it's driven everyday items, whether it's meat and cheese and milk and eggs, or whether it's rental rates. And, you know, the jobs that we have now, even though individuals are having record increases in their wages, it's not keeping up with the rate of inflation. And so how do we solve that? You know, for me, it's always about lower taxes, deregulating business, and allowing the creative economy to let loose, because that's what America has been based on. And I want to be able to help empower more small businesses, not to feel like whether you're a doctor and you have so much over-regulation, or, you know, if you're a land developer and you have like hundreds of pages you need to read just before you know, are able to build on your next site. I want to be able to help empower small businesses to do what they do best, which is run their business.
Let's talk about foreign policy for a minute, Maria. How should our country go about having a relationship with China?
I look at the Chinese Communist Party as one of America's greatest threats. China has run roughshod over our intellectual property rights. China has scooped up too many acres of American farmland that are arable and have placed non-recyclable solar panels, which could affect the integrity of our soil. And I'm really concerned on how we've addressed them. And I think that we haven't taken a hard enough stance to put America first. I do believe it's important that we do have a free market. I believe that, you know, trade is the number one. Having open trade and free trade is so important for our economy, because it helps keep prices affordable for people here in the United States. But I ask everyone to really consider whether they think that China has America's best interest in mind. We see how aggressive China is to Taiwan, which is our number one producer of semiconductors. And that's really vital for us in our country to make sure that we have that conduit, because that semiconductors are the base of all of our modern technology, anywhere from cars to computers, you know, to our cell phones.
You're on the record in your campaign, Maria, saying the following: women should have reproductive options. So explore those options, please.
Wow. So I had options. I told you I didn't tell you I'm 47, but you probably could have done the math, and that my son is 29. I had my son when I was 18 years old, and I was so blessed. I told you I have a wonderful family. They gave me real options. When I was 18 and I found out I was pregnant, my family was there for me. Not only did they make sure that we have great health care, that I could finish my education so that I could break that poverty cycle, and that I could have my son and deliver him in a wonderful hospital, and that he was healthy and I'm healthy. I want those options for women, and everyone in our viewing area right now knows what's happened in Pennsylvania, where there was a program called Real Alternatives that has been defunded by the Democrats in the state house and our governor. That program gave women real options, so that if they chose to have their baby, they can go to pregnancy resource centers. One of the organizations that I volunteer with, it's a K-Galgun House. They are amazing. They have options for women who have their babies, that they can live there with their children in a safe environment. K-Galgun Lifehouse has lost $250,000. And so that's what I'm talking about for women. Like, we deserve to have real options. And I'm an advocate for women. I've always have been.
How can Pennsylvania help the United States achieve energy independence?
Oh, this is my bailiwick. So Pennsylvania, and it's something I'm so proud about, serving in the Corbett administration, worked hand in hand with the oil and gas industry to make sure that we could help provide for over 100,000 jobs that are in the oil and gas industry. if Pennsylvania were its own country, we would be the fourth largest producer of natural gas in the world. And so how we can help deliver innovation, affordable fuel right here to the world, but not only the world, right here to Pennsylvanians, is helping develop our natural gas. And right now, there is a 5-year waiting period for natural gas. You know that there's a moratorium that was placed by the Biden administration on liquid natural gas. And it's extremely problematic just because these are the resources that God has given us. And if we develop them responsibly, there's a great boon that not only that we can have for our Pennsylvania workforce, but it will help feed the world. Right now, we are so reliant on other countries for our natural resources, whether that be OPEC. And we can see what happened in Europe when Europe decided to stop developing their coal. They were relying on Russia and China. And right now you've seen a flip even in Germany on the development of coal. And I'll say being a coal cracker and, coming from, the line of individuals who mine coal, coal is so important. And in fact, in Pennsylvania, 90% of the coal that's produced is made in our steel production industry. So we have amazing resources right here in Pennsylvania, and responsibly developing them is the key to our success, especially for our economy and great jobs.
Now, given the relationship with China that we talked about a few minutes ago, bearing that in mind, what can be done to restore manufacturing in Pennsylvania? Do you see a bright future for that? And how would you achieve it?
Well, I think it's really important that we have the workforce that can be integral to manufacturing. We've seen, and it starts at the ground level, so many individuals embracing career and technical high schools. And so it's a great pitch to those manufacturers that we have an educated workforce in the sense that they have the skill sets we need to do that manufacturing. And I'm hoping it's advanced manufacturing, like we said before, with semiconductors. I do believe that it's really important that once we start to deregulate on our businesses, whether that's Department of Environmental Protection, EPA, that unleashes the creative economy. And so manufacturing has such a storied history in Pennsylvania. We saw what happened with Bethlehem Steel. We saw what happened out in Pittsburgh, but reality is that we can bring manufacturing back, and we have that educated workforce here in Pennsylvania with a hard work ethic that we can help deliver and have those good family sustaining jobs that we did in the past.
Reducing the cost of health care often comes up, and it often turns into a complicated discussion, blaming various sources. So what do you think can be done to reduce the cost of health insurance? Where could we start? Try to simplify it for us if you can.
Oh, sure. I will give you a real story. One of my friends who is a doctor in Easton area called me and he said, Maria, if there's anything we can do to help the practice of medicine, is that you could help make sure that the Department of Health helps streamline all of the burdensome regulations. He stated that he had to hire another person just to be able to understand what the latest and greatest are on what affects his business. I do believe that we need to let doctors to be able to practice medicine. That's what they do best. They've taken a Hippocratic oath to make sure that they're doing what's best for their patients. And with the burdensome regulation that so many of our small businesses are going through, it affects the prices. That's what happens, because if you have to hire another person to understand, how you need to do business so you can keep your license, it drives the cost for everybody. And that's an important first step.
What about gun violence? What can we do to reduce that?
We can bring God back into our lives. I believe that individuals have lost respect for each other. We have lost that value of life. And I'm so concerned for our children. I want them to understand how important they are. I want them to understand that, their neighbors' lives are precious. And I think that we need to do a reset on how we treat people. We can see it anywhere from the internet, where we've lost that personal connection, where people could be so vicious to each other. We've seen it in politics where everyone is attacking each other. You know, that's not what the American dream is about. The American dream is about how amazing this community is and how we can support each other. And so I think one easy way that we can help reduce gun violence is making sure that we create those community connections where people don't feel like we're threats to each other. So let's talk about education. For me, education choice is one of the most important things that we as Pennsylvanians and in America can do. If we can help empower parents to be able to take that tax money and be able to invest it in a school that is good for their child, that is going to be able to open up so many opportunities for success. And I want that for our kids.
Let's get into back into foreign policy just for a minute, Maria. How do you rate our government's handling of funding the war in Ukraine?
A 0. A 0.
Go ahead, expand on that, please, if you would. Why is the U.S. doing a poor job for that 0? How do we earn that 0?
Yeah, so the goose egg is because of how it even started. So I will say that if Donald Trump was president, this war would not have happened. America right now is in their weakest point that they've ever been. During Donald Trump's presidency, we had the longest time of peace ever in American history. And so now, with the Ukrainian war, Joe Biden has taken a faucet drip approach to funding Ukraine. And so $100 million later, plus, here we are, if we would have gone strong and efficient in the beginning, we wouldn't be in this situation that we're at right now, where there's so much resources invested and there's no accountability. Because when I talk about the two things that I look at in whatever we're doing from a congressional level, number one, is it constitutional? Number two, is it in America's best interest? Right now, continuing this funding with no accountability of Ukraine is not in America's best interest. We have homeless veterans. We have education systems that need to be corrected. I want to invest in us, we the people, that we can be the strongest nation, because I still want us to be that shining city on a hill. Like, that's why my family came here. And I want that American dream for everybody.
Maria, we only have about a minute left in our interview. So use that remaining time, please, and tell voters in District 7 why they should vote for you.
Sure. So once again, I'm Maria Montero, and I'm running for Congress in Pennsylvania 7. The American dream is the reason why I'm running, and I want that for you. I want that for your children and your grandchildren. I care to make sure that our streets are safe. That's why I want a secure border. I want to make sure that you have more money in your pocket so that we can afford our groceries and afford our suitable fuel and have good homes. But we're not going to do that with high taxation. And what we need right now is ethical leadership. We need individuals that put America's values first. And I'm hoping that you can support me. If you want to learn more about me, my website is mariamontero.org, and any support you can offer on April 23rd would be so appreciated, whether it's financial or being a volunteer. Thank you, and God bless you.
Maria Montero, Republican for Congress in District 7. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.